We're talking about the Hashgacha Pratis, the demonstration of Hashem's divine intervention. So yesterday we were talking about the idea of the divine intervention. Now I want to go back for a moment to show you something before we even get to the plagues. It starts off technical, but there's a very, very important lesson here. You see, if you take a look at page 320. Now, just to recap, last week's parsha, we started out with Hashem says to Moshe, go get the Bnei Yisrael, and Moshe is at the burning bush, and send him, and Moshe says, no, and I'm not humble, I'm too humble, I'm not worthy, and I send my brother. There's a lot of going back and forth, a lot of talk. Then Hashem finally sends Moshe Rabbeinu to get them, and Moshe Rabbeinu goes, and he says, I'm here to deliver you, and the Egyptians make the work more difficult. That's how last week's parsha ended, and Moshe says to Hashem, I can't believe, what's going on here? You sent me, and now things have only gotten worse. Then this week's parsha again begins with more talk. Hashem says to Moshe, I've sent you, and I remember their forefathers, and I'm going to take them out. And again, there's more talk. We're waiting for action over here, because, there's a lot of action coming. So we're waiting for, when do we get to some of the plagues? Let's see some action. Then the Torah does something very strange. On page 320, it says, Vayomer Hashem al Moshe vel Aaron. It's on Pasuk Yud Gimel. It's about 7 lines from the top. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe vel Aaron, vayitzavim el bnei Yisrael. He commands them to go to the Jewish people. Ve'el Paro melech Mitzrayim, lahotzi es bnei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim, to take the Jewish people out of Egypt. And now the action is ready to begin. Page 320, Pasuk Yud Gimel. The action's ready to begin. So what do you expect to see now? Plague. Boom, plague. What does the Torah do? Torah takes a break for station identification. Eile Roshei Beis Avosam. These are the heads of their tribes. Bnei Ruvain, who are the sons of Ruvain. Ubnei Shimon, that goes on to the gives us an identification. And then on the next page it goes, then you have Amram, and you have Yocheved, and they have Moshe and Aaron. And it traces the genealogy of Moshe and Aaron, who their parents are, and again, introduces us to Moshe and Aaron, and now we're ready to go to the plagues. So one of the commentaries asks like this, I understand, we know who they are, you've been following the story. I mean, if you've been here since Parsha Shmos, you know who the Jewish people are, so why do you got to go back, especially now, right before the action? Oh, by the way, I just want to tell you who their family members are. Why do you need that? It traces them to Moshe and Aaron. So, one of the classic commentators, Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, he says like this, you're about to see a streak of the biggest miracles in history. And the problem is that as you read this, you might lose sight of who Moshe and Aaron are. You might lose sight of the fact that Moshe and Aaron are human beings born to human parents. You might give them a bigger-than-life status, as has happened in other religions, and you turn them into some sort of deity. And therefore the Torah says, hey, I just want to remind you one last time before we go into this, these are human beings born of human parents. These are human beings. Remember I told you there's no immaculate conception, right? Ben, you remember Franco Harris? Remember Franco Harris, the catch? Right? They called it the Immaculate Reception, right? When Franco Harris called, I think it was against Oakland. Right? They were in a playoff game, last play of the game, the guy threw a pass, the Oakland guy batted it down, Franco Harris picked it up about 3 inches off the ground and ran it in for a touchdown. Every American kid thought the Immaculate Conception is Franco Harris. Right? Every kid in America. That's where half the people never even heard of Immaculate Conception. They heard they call it the Immaculate Reception. Right? And he went and wore, he obviously wasn't a Chicago player, that never happened in Chicago, but he obviously went in and won the game on a touchdown. There's no Immaculate Conception of it. Moshe Rabbeinu are human beings. The Torah is showing us 2 things. Number 1, don't make a mistake, they're not gods. Number 2, realize this is the level a human being could rise to. And there are 2 things of it. You know what, a human being could actually rise to the level of a Moshe Rabbeinu who then goes and performs these miracles, which brings to mind a very, very difficult statement that the Rambam makes. The Rambam says every Jew has an obligation to try to reach the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay? Now, what's the problem with that statement? Every Jew has an obligation to try to reach the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay? Well, at least Moshe. Listen, if we get that limit, if I'd say to you, lahavdil, everybody in this room should try to be as good as Michael Jordan. Well, it's a limit. Yeah, we'll get to the limit, then we'll worry about it. First let's get to the limit. So, try to be like Moshe Rabbeinu. What's the problem? The problem is if I'd say to you, and I could take it, guys, give me your best shot. If I'd say to you, listen, guys, do you think I'm going to get to that level? Give me your best shot, Eliasaf. Well, if you were a betting man, what would you say? I'm a rabbi. I think I'll make it to Moshe Rabbeinu. What's the answer? Listen, Rabbi, with all due respect, there you go. with all due respect, no. I really don't think so. And the Rambam says every Jew has to strive to reach the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. How could that possibly be? The answer is that Moshe Rabbeinu's level doesn't mean the objective level. Are you going to be a prophet like Moshe Rabbeinu? No, you're not. I know you're not because the Torah says you're not. The Torah says no one ever rose who will be a prophet like Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu will get the highest level of prophecy. We're not going to make it if we stand on each other's shoulders. Right? No, it doesn't matter how many drugs you do, what kind of experiences you think you have. So many people do drugs and think they're spiritual. They're not. They're drug addicts, right? The big difference. You do some drugs, you go to tzvas, and you stand out there and you do Kabbalah Shabbos with your eyes closed. I'm so spiritual. No, you're not. You're high, but you're not spiritual. So I don't care what you're doing and what kind of shrooms you're doing. It doesn't matter. You're not spiritual, and you're not going to get to the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu. So how can the Rambam say you are? The answer is Moshe Rabbeinu fulfilled his potential. Moshe Rabbeinu fulfilled his potential. His potential was to become a prophet and do miracles. What's your potential? What's my potential? We don't know. Our job is to fulfill the percentage of it. It's not my fault. I wasn't, Moshe Rabbeinu was born and the house lit up. It says the house, he was tov. The house, there was a bright light. It's not your fault that you were born and the house didn't light up. And it's not your fault, right? But you were born with the potential. Fulfill your potential, then you're like Moshe Rabbeinu. That's what the Torah is teaching us before we go into the miracles here. Okay? Now, let's go back to blood for a second. Page 326. Okay? Page 326. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, page 326, Pasuk Yud Tes. I'm going to go over one point we did not mention yesterday, very important point. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, God says to Moshe, Emor el Aaron, Kach matcha, take your staff, unetei yodcha al meimei Mitzrayim. Take your staff and stretch it out, and everything's going to turn to blood. And all the fish are going to die, they're going to putrefy in the Nile over there, they're all going to turn to blood. What's the obvious question here? Why is Aaron doing it? Why is Aaron doing it? Not only that, we're going to find that Aaron does this one. Aaron does the next one. And then he does the third one, which is the Kedim. The Kedim are the lice. Yeah. The Kedim are the lice. Right? Page 330. Why are the first three, and then after that it's all Moshe. It's all about Moshe. Why is it that Aaron does the first three miracles? Why does Aaron do the first three miracles? The first three Moshe says to Aaron.
Because they have, the first three miracles, with what they have to deal with, like the water saved Moshe.
Good.
So Moshe had respect for the water.
Very good. Very good. The second one was also the water. The frogs came from the water. Very good. And the third one, lice's land, and Moshe Rabbeinu buried the Egyptian in the sand, so the land protected Moshe Rabbeinu. So out of his deep sense of gratitude to the water and the land, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't strike the water and land. That begs a question. That begs a question. Yeah, water and land are inanimate. I never met a piece of land that if you'd strike the land would say, "Hey, come on, come on, bro, I protected you." That wouldn't happen. What's with the not striking the land over here? What's with the not striking? What does that mean? What does that mean? So the answer is, this goes to the halacha of shechting animals. There's a halacha when you shecht an animal, so shchita, the ritual slaughter, has been tested. They've done various tests on it, and from a pain point of view, they've measured the pain meters and whatever testing they've done on animals. From a pain point of view, the knife, the shchita knife, is so sharp. And by the way, the shchita knife's not allowed to have any nicks in it. A shochet has to be able to take his fingernail and run it on the knife, on the edge of the knife, to tell if there are any nicks. And there's one statement in the Talmud, one of the Amoraim used to run his tongue on it. Yeah, I get queasy. I just kind of get the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it. And apparently not. Apparently he was, apparently he knew how to. He was very careful. You do very, very careful. So you gotta be able to take, nowadays you take your fingernail to feel for nick. The knife is razor sharp, and when you shech the animal and you cut through the majority of the trachea and the esophagus, the animal dies before it even has a chance to send pain sensors to the brain. That's how painless it is. In Chicago, they used to kill pigs in the stockyards in Chicago. Remember, Mr. Fogel, how they used to kill them? They used to scald them with boiling water. They used to scald the pigs with boiling water and then tell us about how inhumane shchita is. They used to scald pigs with boiling water. They used to bludgeon cows with blunt objects, and the cow would, and often the cow's skull didn't even crack. They had to hit it a few times, right? And then they criticize shchita for being inhumane. So the tests have shown that shchita is the least pain that's sensed by an animal. Now, interesting question. Why are we doing it ostensibly? Compassion for the animals, right? Very compassionate people. 9 out of 10 cows surveyed recommend staying alive to painless death. Right? Let's ask the cows what they think. Okay, Betsy, would you rather stay alive and graze, or would you rather get the sharp end of this stainless steel? So 9 out of 10 for sure would rather stay alive and graze, right? Now, so if we're compassionate for the animals, why kill them at all? Why kill them at all? The answer is that shchita is not for our benefit. It's not for the animal's benefit. The Ramban says it's not because we're concerned about the animals. You can do anything you want to an animal. An animal is put there for human use. You could kill an animal to make a wallet out of the animal. You could kill an animal to make shoes out of the animal. Isn't that cruel? The animal rights people would have your I was going to say they have your hide for it, but the animal rights people go you got to keep them alive. The animal rights people, I just read that the North American rhinoceros, there's a North American rhinoceros. There are only 6 of them left. They managed, one of them just died in a zoo in America, and they're doing everything they can to make sure the species doesn't go extinct. Because I was up in the middle of the night, I was tossing. I could not imagine living without North American rhinoceroses. So the animal rights people, they're all up in arms about killing animals, this, that, and the other. The Ramban says we're not shechting them because of the animal. We're not shechting them because of compassion. We're shechting because of for ourselves. If you go and bludgeon an animal to death with a blunt object, if you pour scalding water on a pig, that's going to do something to you. Animals were put there for human beings to make use of. When Noah comes out of the ark, God says, you rule over the animals. Those who are vegetarians, if you're a vegetarian because you don't enjoy meat, you have every right to be a vegetarian. If you're a vegetarian because you want to protest against the meat industry, the way they mistreat animals or they do whatever they do, okay, if you think that you're not eating a steak will help, fine, I'll take your portion. But you have a right to do that. If you want to be a vegetarian because you think it's wrong, it is morally wrong to kill animals, well, then it's an argument between you and God. And guess who we paskin like, Yishai? We paskin like God. You're allowed to kill animals. That means you're taking on God. God says to bring sacrifices. God says you eat meat on Yom Tov and you eat chicken on Shabbos and you eat what do you call it? God says you're allowed to kill the animals. You have to do it in the proper way. You have to humane way. You have to shech them. But the shechita law is not for the animal. The shechita law is for us. Because if you take and bludgeon an animal to death or you pour scald, that's going to do something to you. It's going to make you a coarse person. And therefore, a shochet who shechts with a knife, it's a constant reminder to him that what you're doing over here is you're having compassion on the animal so that you shouldn't be a cruel, coarse person. When it comes to gratitude, where's the gratitude? What's the idea of gratitude? Gratitude is number one. You're entitled to gratitude. If you did me a favor, you gave me a ride in your car, I have to say thank you. I owe you a debt of gratitude. What about an inanimate object? It's the earth. What's the big deal? It's the earth. The answer is if you show insensitivity. The Talmud makes a statement, don't throw a stone into a well that you've drunk out of. Have you ever heard that statement? If you drank out of a well, don't throw a stone in that well. In other words, don't be an ingrate. Don't show don't do an action that shows that you don't feel the gratitude. But it's an inanimate object. An inanimate object they never protested. The answer is, yeah, but what does it do to you? What does it do to you as a person? The next time you get out of a car, you're not going to thank the person for giving you a ride. Next time your wife makes you a meal, you won't thank your wife for the meal. Next time your parents give you money, you won't thank them for the money. Because I'm not in a custom of doing that. We have to train ourselves. Yiddishkeit, Judaism, is a series of small actions that change us. And by being sensitive, even by the small actions, then you'll certainly be sensitive when it comes to your interactions with other human beings. How come you cover the challahs on Shabbos? So there are two reasons. One reason is because it's a commemoration of the manna that fell, a double portion of manna. We have two challahs. In the manna, when the manna fell, it fell on a layer of dew, and there was a layer of dew on top of it, or like in a carry-out. You know, it was carry-out food. You had to take your manna, it's got a layer between, it's falling on the sand in the desert. So there's a layer of dew underneath it. There's a layer of dew on top of it to keep the mun, D-E-W, to keep the mun fresh. Okay, so we cover the challah on Shabbos. We have the challah board underneath it, and you cover it on top, and you have a double portion because the man fell on Friday on a double portion, lechem mishnah. So that's why we cover the challah. We have double coverage on the challah. Okay, that's reason number one. The second reason is normally during the week. What's the feature food in a meal? Bread. Bread's the staple. Bread is the main. You know, people say, I'm just earning bread for my family, right? Bread is we're trying to make bread. Bread is the symbol of all food. Shabbos, the bread gets shunted aside. And what becomes the feature attraction? Wine. You just stand there, you pick up a cup of wine. How do you think the bread feels? How do you think Scottie Pippen felt when Michael Jordan came back, right? You know, when they did the pregame after Scottie Pippen took him almost to the championship. Then Michael Jordan came back. So how do you think Scottie felt? How do you think Drew Bledsoe felt when Tom Brady won the championship? You know, Drew Bledsoe never. All of a sudden, Tom Brady comes out of the clear blue, played the championship. Remember, they had to make a decision who's going to play. I always said Drew Bledsoe is the unhappiest person in the world. You know, Tom Brady. How do you think he felt? There's no question he would rather cover himself with a blanket. And no one should see him at all. Instead of giving interviews, say, "Yeah, I'm just so happy to be part of this team. You know, I brought Tom Brady water. Between during the timeouts. You know, I'm sure he would rather cover himself with a blanket. So we cover the bread, cover the challah. So the challah shouldn't be embarrassed. It's shunted aside for the grape juice, right? For the wine. Honestly, gentlemen, how did you feel the first time you heard that explanation? You know, these people showed certain signs of stability up till this point. You imagine a guy goes into Shabbos field for the first time. The guy's never seen Shabbos. He's sitting around the table and says, can I ask you some questions? You know, I saw when the men came home from shul, they were singing a song about angels. Yeah, we feel they're accompanied by angels. We think Shalom Aleichem. Wow, that's really spiritual. That's really neat. And then there was a thing about singing something about the wife, of the Eishes Chayil. Says, yeah, that's how we sing about the wife. That way we'll get a good meal next week also. Oh, that's great. That's terrific. And then he picked up the wine. What was he saying over it? He said, well, just that we're better than everybody else in the world. Oh, that's great. I love that. And what was that thing? They didn't pour water on their hands and everybody went, no. Well, no, that's just the Tilas Yadayim. We're leaving here. Oh, that's really cool. And why did he cover the bread? Well, we just don't want to hurt the bread's feelings while we can you imagine somebody in the house is looking like, and then you're looking around the room. Did anybody else, and everybody else in the room is going, yeah, that's right, yeah. Imagine somebody comes in for the first time, I'd be out the window. I wouldn't even use the door. These guys are a bunch of nuts. And they're telling me that I'm out of their mind. The answer is that it becomes a series of steps. If you're sensitive to bread, which doesn't really have a feeling, and you're sensitive to animals, which are there put there, so you'll be sensitive to human beings. And the Torah is a continuing process of developing sensitivity, even in areas which we ourselves would say, quote unquote, it doesn't really matter. Does it really matter if Moshe Rabbeinu strikes the earth? It doesn't, but it does. Because if Moshe Rabbeinu strikes the earth, it could dull his sensitivity to showing gratitude. In Moshe Rabbeinu, now realize what's happening over here. You have a demonstration of God's honor in the world, a Kiddush Hashem, a sanctification of God's name, and Moshe Rabbeinu relinquishes it for the sake of not causing a flaw in his own character development. That's how important character development is in Judaism. Moshe Rabbeinu is willing to relinquish that because of the concern of care for the first three makos. That's why he doesn't hit the earth. He doesn't hit the water, because he has to develop his own hakaras hatov. That's the idea. Go ahead. You had a question. Go ahead.
So, you didn't hear right. You say that the challah cover, when we got the manna, it was one layer on top of the other?
Yeah. The manna fell down on a layer. The Medrash says there was a layer of dew on the earth, and then the bottom, the manna fell on it, and there's a layer of dew on top of it. So we cover the challah. There's a challah board underneath. Then there's a cover on top, number one, to commemorate the manna. It's also, that's why it's a double portion, because the manna fell a double portion fell on Friday, because it wasn't going to fall on Shabbos.
So then it had dew, mana, dew, mana, dew.
No. The manna was a double portion means that a bigger chunk of manna fell, but we have two. Yeah, I don't know. It could be it was two pieces of manna. That I don't know.
The dew fell on top of it.
Right. So it's a layer. Again, obviously, the dew is probably pretty thick. I'm not sure. Probably Mountain Dew. I don't know. Yahoo. Okay. Now take a look at the Perek Zayin Pasuk Yud Zayin. Okay, again, this is where it turns to blood. Now, there's a very interesting medrash here that just puts the whole thing in a proper perspective. God brings 10 plagues. Why are these the plagues that are brought? Why the plagues? There are different opinions about the method of how the plagues were brought. So there's a very interesting medrash that says God brought the plagues like a military campaign. Plagues were brought like a military campaign. In the old days, nowadays, war is very depersonalized. There's very little job satisfaction in war nowadays. In the old days, you went out into the battlefield with one of those spikes. You either had a sword or a spike, or something, and you could clobber people and feel, a little bit of, fulfillment. Nowadays you sit in a back room like that, boom, there goes Damascus. Oh darn it, I meant Iran. And all right, let's do it again. And just start taking out half the world with wars are fought in back rooms now. You don't need to be Rambo. All you need is some geek in a back room who knows about computers. Get into other people's systems, a Pentagon, Russian system. That's how you fight wars. Okay, the old days wars were very personal. So what's the first thing you did when you besieged a city? What's the first thing you did in a war?
You poisoned their water?
Correct. Hit the water supply. First thing, that's blood. Blood is the water supply. It's like a military campaign. What's the next thing you do? Frogs. What are the frogs? In the old days, it's not like the Romans. Let's get them. Let go of the frogs. I'm sure that the barbarians weren't nervous about frogs. What was it? What did you do? What was the next thing you do? You start blowing the trumpets. Start making noise. The mention of the frogs were a problem for several reasons. Number one, everywhere you went, there was a frog. You sat down on a table, and you sat down, squish. Oof, what is that? A frog. A woman opens up the refrigerator, there's a frog. Everywhere you looked, there were frogs. I heard about a guy, I had a student in a different yeshiva. All right, this guy's a good student, just a little bit, the Chicagoan. So this guy went to his family's Pesach Seder. So, different people do different things at the Pesach Seder to simulate, like hail, they'll throw a bunch of cotton balls or something, just to make the kids appreciate the plagues. So this guy's sitting there and they get the dam, and everybody, whatever, the blood. At Sfardeya, the guy had a live frog, and he released the live frog at the Seder. And the frog starts jumping around. So the women were screaming, the men were laughing, and the women are jumping, and the men are laughing, and the guy says, well, listen, everybody, this is just one of them. Now just imagine everywhere you go, there is, if I can't, you're sitting down, standing up, everywhere you go. The plague is, we can't even imagine what it was like, what it's like. The place smells like blood. Now you got frogs, and everywhere you go. So the Medrash says, not only the frogs were annoying, just because they're frogs, you sit down on a couch, you go lie down in bed, and there's, your pillow, it sounds like something I would do to my daughters. You lie down, and also there's a frog in the pillow. But it was the noise. The frogs were riveting. The noise of the frogs was deafening. That's what the Medrash says. And we see that afterwards, when Moshe Rabbeinu goes to daven, Paro says, daven, that the frogs should leave. So take a look what it says on the on page 330. Paro summons Moshe Rabbeinu and says, get rid of this. So on page 330, Pasuk Ches, it's 5 lines from the top. Vayetze Moshe ve'Aaron me'im Paro. Moshe and Aaron leave Paro. Vayitzak Moshe el Hashem al dvar. Moshe screams out to God regarding the frogs, that they should put a stop to the frogs. So the Medrash says, why was Moshe yelling? It's the only plague where Moshe davens. After each plague, he davens it should stop to show Paro that he could turn it on and turn it off. This is the only time it says he yells. Why was Moshe yelling?
So he knew it himself.
He could hear himself. There's a halacha that when you daven, you have to hear yourself. At a minimum, when you daven, you have to say the words loud enough that you hear yourself, right? When you say Shema, you shouldn't disturb the person next to you, but the minimum level that you should be able to hear yourself. So if Moshe Rabbeinu is davening to Hashem, in order to fill the halachic requirement of prayer, he has to be able to hear himself. But he couldn't hear himself because the frogs were yelling, so he had to yell. He had to yell over the frogs, right? Normally yelling is not davening. He had to yell in order to hear himself. That's why he says over here it's the only time, because the noise of the frogs was deafening. So first you have water. After the water, you have the trumpeters start making noise, sounding the attack. Then what do you have? The archers start shooting. That's the third plague, which is the kinim, the lice, which are stinging you all over the body. The Medrash says it's like archers shooting arrows. And after you shoot the arrows, then what happens? Then you have the invasion of the warriors, right? The mixed, the wild animals, the mixed animals that come into the world. Then you kill then you kill the crops. Then you kill you kill the animals. And every one of them then the hail is supposed to be the catapulting the stones over the walls like they used to fight in the ancient world. Then you have darkness where the Egyptians couldn't move. Everybody, they literally, there was a thick darkness. Next week's Parsha talks about the last three plagues. It's a thick darkness like black marshmallow fluff. You actually can't move, which shows a symbol of imprisoning. You're taking the prisoners, you put them in prison, you can't move, and then the Makas Bechoros, the plague of the firstborn, killing the firstborn, is the execution of the high officials. When you win the war, you execute the high officials. The whole thing is described as being a military campaign. That's what it was. In other words, everything that's done is to show you, again, the demonstration of God's intervention. And that God's intervention is also not random and haphazard. It wasn't just, okay, let's see what we think of today. Okay, today will be blood. Let's see what else we come up with. No, it's being done in a pattern and in an order to show that God is intervening in a very calculated way. Go ahead, Elias, over there on that. Okay. Yeah.
If you're going to say that Moshe screamed, it raises the question, did Jews not suffer from the macros?
Ooh, that's a good question. That is a good question. Because theoretically, the Jews didn't suffer. Huh. That's a very good question. If the Jews didn't suffer...
Maybe he did so that way the Egyptians could hear him and hear that he was going actually...
Very good question. Could be.
What's the question?
Don't know.
Was,
Huh? Don't know.
For it to stop, where you pray from the power of the shoulder?
No, it says he went out. No, Moshe, they left Paro. They went out to an area that wasn't filled with idols, and he yelled. No, you're right. That strengthens the question. I don't know. It's a very good question. Why would it seems that they were annoyed by the noise as well. Very good question. Very good question. Don't know. Okay. Now take a look at page at Perek Ches Pasuk Yud Zayin. Very interesting. What do you call it? Page 332. Now Moshe Rabbeinu says to Paro like this. Top of page 332, top line. This is the fourth plague, and he says to him, Ki im eincha mishalech es ami. If you don't send away my nation, hineni mashliach b'cha uva. I'm going to set on you. And your servants means your high officials. Uve'amcha means the community at large, or the people at large. Ubebatecha in your homes, esa orov. Orov comes from the Hebrew sahidi, the Hebrew word to be mixed together. Umalu bate mitzrayim esa orov. The houses of Egypt are going to be filled with this mixed multitude of animals. V'gama adama asher hemaleh. And the earth that they're on. That means every animal known to man, the Medrash says, every single animal known to man invaded Egypt on the fourth plague. Lions, alligators, llamas, You know, I don't know what the llamas do exactly. You know,
They
would they spit?
Yeah, whenever it gets
Oh,
dry.
look out! There's a llama. You know, head over to the alligators. I can't take those llamas. Oh no, he's spitting. You know, it's so impolite. You know, that's so rude. So you know, every animal known to man, rhinoceroses, hippopotamus, everything known to man comes to Egypt. Okay, now. I don't know if dolphins. I don't know. What, the dolphins were there? I don't know if dolphins were there. I don't know. I don't know how the dolphins. Yeah, I really don't know if the dolphins were there. But now the question becomes like this. The question goes. This is very interesting. Dolphins, by the way. My brother was going to be a zoologist, so he knows all about. And he was particularly going to be actually an oceanographer. And he was crank on dolphins, you know. So he knew he could tell you how many molars they have, stuff like that. So he told me once that dolphins fight sharks. And one of the things they do is they hurl themselves at the sharks. They hit the shark's gills. The gills are the fins. One of them where he takes in water, the gills. And they smash the gills so the shark can't use his gills. He actually suffocates because he can't take in water. And the sharks just sink because the dolphins hurl themselves at the sharks.
The shark has to keep swimming or else it dies.
Right, and what they do is they go for the gills and they bomb them. So my brother told me what the dolphins will do is they'll actually, if they sense that there's a shark in the area, they'll send out one dolphin as a decoy, and that brings the shark is hiding. The shark sees the dolphin, he goes out after that dolphin, and the other dolphins gang up on him, which is a remarkable thing. I only had one kasha. How do they choose who's going to be the decoy? You know, I always wonder about, okay, Sydney, you're up. Oh, come on, I did it last week. Let Marv go. You know, I don't know exactly how the dolphins choose who's going to be the decoy over here, you know. And you see Sydney swim around with half a tail. You know, I guess he wasn't such a good decoy. So I'm not sure exactly how they do this. But at the end of the day, that's what they I don't know if the mammals were there. Whatever it is, the animals are. Now watch this. Moshe Rabbeinu wants to convince Paro that it's a supernatural. Remember, somebody, I think Mike was here yesterday, he said, people who are obstinate can try to explain away anything. If somebody's obstinate, it wasn't a miracle, it wasn't God, they'll try to explain anything. You bring in a whole crew of wild animals, so, Paro might turn around and say, well, and once in a while there's an invasion of animals. It happens, Oh, sure. You mean snakes from India come all the way to Egypt, for their vacation. They want to see the pyramids. Yeah, sure, right. So the snakes go, okay, you want to be abstinent, you can be abstinent. Moshe Rabbeinu wants to give Paro a sign that even Paro is going to have trouble denying this is supernatural. Now, what's the sign? The sign is right there in the pasuk. Because look what Moshe Rabbeinu says. He says, I'm going to set against you, second line on the page on 332. Moshe Rabbeinu says, Ki imcha mishalech asami, hineni mashleach b'cha. I'm going to set against you, uve'avadecha, and your high officials, uve'amcha, and the common people. I'm going to send in these animals. Now, let me ask you a question. Where do you think Paro's palace is? On the border or inland? I would expect it to be inland. A king doesn't put his palace right on the border where he can be attacked. And who do you think lives around the palace? The high officials. And where do the common people live? On the outskirts, closer to the border. So it's a remarkable thing that the animals come across the border, come invade Egypt. A hungry lion is not choosy. If he sees a zebra, a hungry lion doesn't say, oh, well, I'm really in the mood for some antelope, forget it, He sees a zebra, that's what he eats. He's not picky. He'll become fleischiks and he has no problem. And so for have the animals come across the border, and where do the animals go? They come across the border, and you got plenty of good, juicy Egyptians over there. And instead they go straight to the palace, and then they start working their way out. That's completely beyond natural law. That the animals should invade, go straight to the palace, then start eating their way out towards the border. It doesn't make any sense. Yet that's what Moshe Rabbeinu says. I'm going to set them against you, your inland, uve'avadecha, and your servants, uve'amcha, and your people, and all the houses. And therefore, they're passing everything up, they're going in, and then they eat their way out. You understand? That's a sign that's completely supernatural. Now, one of the Mefarshim says over here, very interesting take on this pasuk. You notice at the end of the pasuk it says, "V'gam ha'adoma asher hem aleha." At the end of the pasuk it says, "I'm going to set them on the houses of Egypt and the earth which they occupy." Now, the plain meaning of the pasuk is that I'm going to set the animals on houses everywhere where there are Egyptians, on the Egyptian land, on Egyptian soil. The animals are going to get the Egyptians. This is a very, very interesting idea here. An animal is tougher on his own turf, right? If you invade an animal's turf, an animal is much more dangerous if you invade his habitat, his natural habitat. If an animal once in a while comes wandering in Muncie, once in a while a bear wanders into okay, so you scare the bear, you yell something at the bear goes running off, for those of you who like hanging around bears, right? So the bear goes running off. But if you invade a bear's turf, right? There was a guy in New York, by the way. Where else? They have a zoo. They have a zoo somewhere in New York. I don't know. What's the famous? There's some big zoo in New York. Maybe it's the Bronx Zoo? So they have a train, apparently. This was in the newspaper last year. They have a train that goes around the track, goes to the top of the zoo. Is that the Bronx Zoo? There's a train goes around there. So a 27-year-old guy, not Jewish, as the train was passing the tiger cage, he jumped out of the train. He jumped over the 16-foot restraining wall into the tiger cage. So it took 10 minutes for them to get to him. They backed off the tiger with the zoo people, backed off the tiger with one of those sprays, a fire extinguisher. They fire extinguished the tiger to back him off in order to get this guy out. Somehow he survived. He survived. It took about a paragraph of newspaper print to describe his injuries. The tiger was rather offended that somebody was invading his turf. And I just remember the word broken, punctured, crushed, collapsed. Those are the various injuries of various parts of his body. So they took him to the hospital, and they asked him when he was conscious. They said to him, Julio, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? And his very, very sophisticated response, I wanted to be one with the tiger. Which I don't know exactly what he meant, and I don't. But now you will admit to me that jumping over 16-foot walls and joining tigers is not very tempting. Then you wonder why the rabbis put up fences, rabbinic fences, right? If you could jump a wall to get to a tiger, you could probably jump a wall to eat non-kosher food, right? So we understand rabbinic fences a little bit at least. So animals don't like having their turf invaded. They're much more dangerous. When an animal comes to your turf, so then it's easier. You could scare them off a little bit. You got to yell, throw a stone, whatever it is. So the pasuk is saying over here like this. I'm going to now watch this. It's very, very precise in the wording. It says, if you don't send ki imeincha meshaleach esami, hineni meshaleach mashliach becho v'decho v'amcho v'vtecha esa orov, umalu bote mitzrayim esa orov, the houses of Egypt will be filled with these animals, the gam ha'adama asher heim aleh, and also the earth that they occupy. So the plain meaning is that they'll fill the houses and the earth that the Egyptians occupy. One of the Mefarshim says, no, it means they'll fill the houses and the earth that they occupy. That means the earth that the animals are on will come with them to Egypt, and that'll make them even more vicious. So that when the tiger is in the kitchen, the tiger is on tiger turf, which makes him a little tougher. And if the llama is there, right, so the llama is on llama turf. I don't know exactly, again, I guess there's more saliva when they spit. I'm not sure exactly what happens. But at the end of the day, they'll be tougher because the earth that they're on comes with them into Egypt. And that shows you that it's not easy. So animals don't usually pack bags and take it with them when they go. I heard about a girl, a guy told me here years ago that there was a girl, did you ever hear that there's something called the Appalachian Trail? Is that the one that runs south to north? It goes all the way up to. So a guy told me there's a girl from his school. They were always told don't go on the Appalachian Trail alone. So apparently this college girl was walking on the Appalachian Trail, and at a certain point she saw a brown bear. All right, a little baby, two little baby brown bears. Cubs, yeah, little baby cubs, yeah. But what happened was she turned around, all of a sudden she noticed that the mother was on the other side of her. And to get between a mother bear and the cubs is apparently not a good thing. Right? It's like losing a pawn in chess. It's apparently not a good thing. And so she started walking. The mother bear followed her. The mother bear just started following her about 10 feet behind her. And she just started walking. And the mother bear just followed her. And after about 3 miles, the mother just suddenly stopped, turned, and walked off. She lived to tell the story. Right. So, there are certain people, sometimes people go swimming swimming in shark-infested waters. And, people say, well, listen, it's great. If you say the shark comes, apparently you punch the shark in the nose. You ever hear that? You're supposed to punch the shark in the nose, right? And so people go mountain climbing, people go people go climbing places and traveling in all these places where apparently it's really not a problem because if you see any sort of wildlife, you just throw a stone or you yell and that sort of thing. Well, you hope so. You hope so. They took us on a trip once at Or Samach. They took us on a hike down to Ein Gedi. So I remember going on the trail, there's a sign that says, beware of bobcats. So I remember thinking to myself, okay, now what if I see a bobcat? What do I do? I say, okay, listen, I'm aware of you. So don't mess, I'm aware of you. Now, what am I supposed to beware of? Why would I go anywhere where I have to be aware of bobcats? Beware of bobcats. So, I'm here to talk about it. But, what if I would have said, I have no idea. All right, we'll continue tomorrow.